Hi everyone, welcome to Kinesiology 2050 Health and Well-Being, Module 5. So this module is really about taking everything that we've done so far, including the dimensions, including the wheel of wellness, but really beginning to focus in on all on the behavior management plan. And now we're going to really write up a specific behavior change contract. So if you've done everything up until now, this should be just kind of piecing everything together. I'm not even going to have a reading for you. I just want you to really spend some good time taking everything that you've already done and really creating a really specific plan. So what I want you to do is in this module, on a link, you're just going to click on an attached file. There's a behavior change contract, and that basically is just going to be your cover page, right? There's just a couple questions. Those aren't the ones that I really want you to go into depth in later, so you can just kind of briefly answer those. The main part is that you're really making a declarative statement of I'm planning to do this. This is when I'm going to start. This is when I'm going to finish. And it's a really good idea that if you get somebody to witness it, because usually when you tell somebody that you're going to do something and you really make a statement like that and they actually sign it, you're way more likely to stick through it. So then that's going to be your cover page. All I want you to do is I want you to take the document that I have and then just copy and paste that into your own Word document, because what I want is your own Word document with all these pieces. And it's, again, it's going to be kind of similar to last week, but this is going to be a really specific final draft of what your behavior change contract is. So you're going to have the contract on the very first page, and then I want a very specific and very in-depth plan of implementation. Remember, you're going to be way more successful the more specific it is, and so I can't emphasize that enough. If it's a dietary change, exactly what are you going to do? What are you going to eat? If it's something about working on communication skills, I want to know what skills you're going to work on. I want to know how you're going to implement it. I want to know how you're going to evaluate it. I want it just really specific. And this should be the bulk of it, right? This really should be the whole, the main bulk of what the contract is, because I really want to know every way that you're going to implement it. And again, this is for you, so the more in depth you can get, the better it's going to be for you, but it also needs to be molded towards you and your behaviors and really what you want to do about this, okay? So give it some time. But again, you should have already kind of really have a good foundation, a pretty good rough draft of all this. Then I want to know how you're going to evaluate it. How you're going to evaluate it along the way, and then also how you're going to evaluate it at the end. What your potential pitfalls. Again, last time I had you do the kind of the behavior change problems and then kind of how to fix those. So I just want you to kind of write down, these are my pitfalls. If I start falling into this behavior, then these are the alternative behaviors that I'm going to do, or however it is for you for that specific behavior. And again, this is always, I feel like I can't be too specific in my guidelines here because everybody's behavior is different. And whether you're choosing a behavior on establishing better communication skills, it's going to look very different than if you're choosing a behavior to kind of work on fitness. Okay, so I want you to be really specific in your implementation, but I know my guidelines are kind of general, and that's on purpose to kind of encompass all the different kind of behaviors that we may be talking about. And then again, I want you to identify your reasons why it's important to you, how you would feel if you weren't successful. So again, those are all, you've kind of got the foundations of all this, but I want this to kind of look like an official document, right? You got the cover page of the contract itself, and then I want you to really kind of specifically say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to evaluate it. These are my potential problems. These are how I'm going to combat those potential problems, and this is how I will feel if I'm successful. So I just want you to be really kind of very clear and very declarative in it. But again, the most important part of this is really kind of a specific plan of implementation. And then you're just going to submit that. So there's no reading this week and there's no long videos to watch this week. This is the week that really kind of culminates everything that we've been doing so far up to this point and really puts it in one kind of very intentional, specific document. You know, usually I've been having you do the stream of consciousness writing this. I want to be pretty specific, pretty well worded, a pretty good declarative statement about how you would really do this, because again, we're looking at this in two lenses, right? For you yourself, but also how you would walk somebody else through this. So again, this is kind of the more really specific, more well written. This is exactly how I'm going to do what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. And then you're done with that. We're going to come back to the maintenance behavior next week, but that is your behavior change contract. And again, my challenge to you is that you really take this contract and you really implement it through the rest of the semester and really go through everything that this contract says for you. I did get a question last week, and I mentioned this before about what happens if I want to change my behavior. Totally okay. Totally okay. You're going to have to go back and go do all the other steps. But I said from the very beginning, I want this to be a dynamic process. And as we go through this class, just the more information you get, the more you learn. It is a dynamic process. You are going to be changing your mind about things, and that's good. That's a good thing, right? So if you've gotten part the way into it and gone, oh my gosh, I really want to work on this other behavior because I think all these steps would really be good for me in that behavior. Absolutely. I want you to do something. This is for you, not for me. Right, so I want you to really do something that you're inspired about, that you're motivated about, because there's nothing worse than trying a behavior change program that's not really something that you're invested in. The only time you'll stick to it is if you are really invested in it. Okay, so then there's that. Then the other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to start going into nutrition and fitness and do kind of a whole health-based unit. So what I want you to do is I want you to take 4 days and I want you to record everything that you ingest, everything you eat, everything you drink. I want you to date it. I want you to write down everything that you eat and drink. As close to portion sizes as you can figure out. Okay, and I know that it's not perfect, but as close as you can. That would be really helpful. And if it's something that's got if it's like a dinner that has a lot of different things in it, try to kind of break it down to what's in it, because I really want to know exactly what's going in your body. And again, this isn't supposed to be a time to try to be really good in your eating, right? I want this to reflect what your typical eating patterns are, because what we're going to start with is looking at what your typical eating patterns are and then look at those. What do they look like? What are you ingesting? How does it make you feel? What are the calories that you're taking in and the carbohydrates that you're taking in and all that, but we're going to get there. So right now though, I just want you to take 4 days and I want you to record everything. So I want you to record what you eat, try to get the portions as close as you can. And again, this is really supposed to reflect your typical eating patterns, right? The situation, like if you're watching TV late at night and you made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and ate a whole bag of potato chips. I just want to know the situation, and then I want to know how you felt physically, not how you felt about eating it. I just want to know how you felt physically. An hour later, and then 3 hours later, and then the next morning. Now, obviously, the next morning isn't going to be every meal, and sometimes 3 hours later, you're already going to be eating another meal, and that's okay. It's just that I really want you to start linking up how you feel with what you ate, because some people are really affected by what they ate and some people aren't, and it's important to know that. And some people are really affected by different things. And it's really important to pay attention to that. And most of the time, what we do is we're always analyzing it for calories and carbohydrates and fats and proteins and you know, all of that stuff. We're always evaluating it for kind of the substance that makes it up, but we're never really thinking about how we feel from eating it. And that's a really important piece. So we're going to really look at that. So right now, I just want to know exactly what you eat, how you felt an hour later, how you felt 3 hours later. If it was a night meal, how you felt the next morning. And you can record it any way you want that's appropriate for you. I just want those components in. It's really important. You're not going to turn that in this week, but I want you to have it done before next week, because next week we're going to go really start talking about nutrition and breaking down, you know, all of these things, what different parts of your diet are and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to get there. But right now, I just want you to really just record it all and really think about how you felt. So an example is, I once had a young woman in my class, and you know, she was thoughtful of her health, and every morning she would have fresh squeezed orange juice, thinking that it was a really healthy thing, which it would be for most people. She had blood sugar issues that she was not aware of. And for somebody with blood sugar issues, the last thing that you should do is have something that's got a high sugar content on an empty stomach. And orange juice, even though it's healthy, has a really high, very high glycemic index, meaning it hits your blood sugar really quick. And so she would have a raging headache an hour later, and she never connected the fact that that was to the orange juice. And she would have never, you know, because in her mind, she thought that was a really healthy thing that she was doing. And until she was recording what she ate every day, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm having this. An hour later, I have this horrible headache. And so she decided not to have it one day, and then she realized that that was the cause of her headache. So it's just really important to start connecting what you're eating with how you're feeling, because everybody's different. Everybody's different in how they, you know, how certain types of nutrition work for them. We always think there's one given answer. So again, all I want you to be doing with that right now is just recording everything you ate, recording the time, recording how you felt. Okay, and then you're just going to put that aside, and we're going to come back to it next week. But it's super important to have that done before next week. Okay, and then the last thing is your wellness activities. So I want you to engage in 3 wellness activities every day, and then just jot them down, keep a log of them. And again, they don't have to be super long activities. They can be if you want them to be, but I just want you to keep thinking about, what am I doing for all these various dimensions? Remember, we're still thinking about the dimensions of wellness, that you have this whole integrated way of being healthy. And I want you to keep thinking throughout the semester. We're going to do these wellness activities every week, because I want you to always constantly be aware of how the dimensions are playing into your life. So I want you to focus on 3 different dimensions. You know, not have everything you do be under the same dimension, right? The idea is to really work on an integrated way of health and wellness. You can use that refrigerator reminder that I gave you before. You don't have to. I just want you to date it, log what you did, what dimension, you know, what day it is, what dimension, what you did, and then what dimension it covers, and kind of how you felt from that. Okay, so the deliverables this week, again, are a really specific, very intentional behavior change contract, your nutrition log, but you're not turning that in, so it's not a complete deliverable, but you need to have that done, and then your wellness activities. So this week carries less of you watching me in videos and a lot more of really kind of putting all of this together. Oh, I also included the PowerPoint that we went through last week, because that kind of follows the steps. So what I want you to do before you really start writing this contract is I want you to go back and read over all your notes, read over the packets that I gave you, read over the handouts, you know, look again at the PowerPoint. So you really kind of, this is kind of the culminating thing that you're turning into me about all the things that we've done up to this point. So it's really important to kind of make sure you get all those pieces in. And again, if you've done everything else and engaged in everything else, then it should come together pretty well. So that's mostly the focus of this week, besides just making sure that you're writing down everything that you eat. So there won't be a reading, there won't be any more videos besides this one. So have a really great week.